these 3 books, and there's many others. I could recommend quite a few others, but those sort of are on the top of the list.
What's the title of the last one?
Astrology, a Cosmic Science. It's a classic work on spiritual astrology. My biggest interest in astrology has to do with the interconnectedness with our spiritual self. And she gets into that concept a lot more than the other 2 books. Although I would say John Josselin's book is also very spiritual as well. It's deeper than just the surface level meaning of the signs. Okay, so over the years since 1970, I attended many lectures, went to different classes, went to different conferences on astrology. I just couldn't get enough. Okay, once I was initiated with Linda Goodman's sun signs, I just ate it up. I couldn't get enough. I kept reading it and reading more and more books, taking notes in classes, going to conferences. And I studied with, probably some of you people won't even know these names, but Maura Cleary. She's passed away now, but she was my first teacher. And she taught at Columbia College, where I was going at the time. She taught an intensive midterm course in astrology. And I fell in love with her, the way she taught, the way she get into the deeper meaning of the chart and how to set up charts, and she was just brilliant. She actually was a psychologist at the University of Chicago for 8 years, and she went into astrology trying to disprove it. But she couldn't, and that's what sort of got into her. She got into it then after trying to disprove it, but she couldn't, so she became one of its greatest proponents. The other person, I studied for a while at the Temple of Kriya Yoga. How many people have studied there or heard about Temple of Kriya Yoga downtown? Okay, I actually studied with Kriyananda for a while. I took a class with him. And I bought a lot of his tapes on esoteric astrology. Very excellent teacher. He's also no longer with us. He's passed. And the person I mainly studied with was a disciple of his, but he was teaching in Deerfield. He was living in Deerfield. John Warren Flint, Swami Dharmananda. I studied with him for 3 years. And he basically filled me in on a lot of things that were going on at the temple, and that's when I started going to the temple and studying with Kriyananda, but only for a short while with Kriyananda. So that's studying with John and Kriyananda were the first introduction to spiritual astrology, a deeper look at the horoscope and the signs and the planets and everything else. So that's kind of my background. And then after studying astrology for about 11 years, 10 or 11 years, something like that, I couldn't get enough. I just kept eating it up and eating it up. But then I was just so full of all this information, I didn't know what to do with it. So then I said, oh, well, obviously I got to turn it back out. That's when I started doing readings, started teaching classes, eventually started writing articles and giving lectures. So that's where I am today. Let me just give you, John mentioned before that we have a group here that meets the 3rd Tuesday of every month from 7 to 9. And it's a nice little group of people, but it's open to the public. So I welcome anybody who is interested in astrology to join us. But I also teach at a place called the Gathering Lighthouse in Lombard. How many people have heard of that place?
I'm a member.
Okay.
Study with June.
Yes, okay, yeah, June Cordum and her 2 daughters. I've been working there for now about 3 years teaching. And it's in downtown Lombard. It's called the Gathering Lighthouse. And I teach a group there called Skywatchers. And that's from 7 to 9, the first Thursday of every month. Now, obviously, they have a meeting. We were supposed to have a meeting tonight, but it interfered with this. So we're having our next meeting next Thursday night. And then the group here that meets on Tuesday nights is called Stargazers. So just a heads up to let you know about that. All right. So that's sort of a short bio and background on myself. After 8 years, you'd think I would have talked about this sooner, but I'm just sort of presenting it now. Anyways, let's talk a little bit of astrology now. Astrology, according to Webster's dictionary, is, and I'll read it, astrology is a Greek word which states that the position of the stars, the planets, the sun and moon affect human behavior and affairs and can be used to predict the future. That's Webster's dictionary's definition of astrology. I'm going to go a little further than that, though. Okay, astrology is any living creature's response to planetary vibrations. All right, and that also includes pets, by the way. Your pets have charts, and I had a couple of cats, and I followed closely their charts, and it really made a lot of sense. Now, I don't know if this applies to plants, so I don't even know when a plant is born, but I would probably stay away from that one. Anyways, astrology is both art and science. Now, a scientist would disagree with this with me, but of course, science is science. That's who they are. But it is science in the sense that we have to know the positions of the planets up there in the zodiac. So, for instance, if they discovered a new star or a comet going through the sky or an asteroid, they have to pinpoint its location, longitude and latitude, and right ascension. And so they use the backdrop of the constellations to give you that position. So to get a position of any planet at any time, an accurate position, which we use in astrology, that's the scientific part. But from there, astrology and astronomy part ways. Astrology says that the position of stars and planets affect human behavior. So in that regard, astrology is an art. It's an art to be able to understand metaphysically and metaphorically what those positions mean. And I just want to say this right off the bat. Astrology never compels you to do anything, right? Never compels you. It may strongly impel you at times based on your chart, but it never ever compels you to do anything that you don't want to do. Your willpower still is the main deciding force in your life, all right? You can counteract any strong impulsion from a star's energy or a planet's energy. Don't think that astrology just completely overwhelms our decisions. It does not. But it does impel at times very strongly, especially based on certain positions in the sky, based on your chart. All right. Horoscope. The literal meaning of the word is view of the hour. So whenever you're doing a chart for somebody, you have to know the exact time of birth. You're supposed to anyways, okay? Because that way, the more accuracy